women in the early stages of morning sickness and tested for safety on animals. As reports of malformations began to pile up, vivisectors went back into the laboratory in an attempt at reproducing the malformations in mice. The results were negative, and assurances of the drug's safety were sent to thousands of doctors. Only when it was no longer possible to doubt the drug's true nature in humans was it taken off the market. During the lengthy civil trial of the drug's manufacturers in 1970, numerous court witnesses, all animal experimenters, stated under oath that the results of animal experiments are never valid for human beings. In fact, the manufacturers avoided criminal charges because of this defense, that the results of such experiments are worthless, the very argument that should put paid to all animal experiments once and for all. One of these experts at the trial was the Nobel Prize winner Sir Ernst Boris Chain, who co-discovered the antibacterial effects of penicillin. According to the court records on 2 February 1970, he stated, "No animal experiment with a medicament, even if it is tested on several animal species, including primates, under all conceivable conditions, can give any guarantee that the medicament tested in this way will behave the same in humans, because in many respects the human is not the same as the animal." Pro-vivisectionists have used the thalidomide tragedy as proof that more animal testing is required, as testing for birth defects was not mandatory prior to thalidomide. However, the truth of the matter is that animal experiments actually delayed the recall of the drug, and that subsequent animal testing has shown it to be almost impossible to induce these malformations in laboratory animals, including various strains of mice, rabbits, dogs, hamsters, primates, cats, armadillos, guinea pigs, swine, and ferrets. Only in one or two certain rare breeds of rabbit, and occasionally primates, were malformations induced, and only then when the drug was given in massive doses.
It never ceases to amaze me that people try to argue that more animal experiments would have prevented thalidomide. Here's what happened. Many babies got born like me. They started doing loads of tests on many different species, almost none of which suffered the ill effects of the drug seen in humans. Eventually they discovered that New Zealand white rabbits also gave birth to deformed offspring, but only when they were given ridiculously large amounts of the drug. So it would have come onto the market anyway, even if they'd known about the New Zealand white rabbits, because a vast majority of the species had no ill effects from the drug. The Journal of American Medical Association in 1975 states that it had been established that man is 60 times more sensitive to thalidomide than the mouse, 100 times more than the rat, 200 times more sensitive than the dog, and 700 times more sensitive to thalidomide than the hamster. And those are all species that are very popular with animal experimenters. So what we draw from that is this. Today, if thalidomide was trying to be marketed by some scientists to go on to general release, the weight of evidence from animal experiments would suggest that yes, thalidomide is perfectly safe to use.
Since thalidomide, all drugs and thousands of other chemical substances which find their way into the environment have been tested on animals in an attempt at avoiding human birth defects. In the wake of this increased animal testing, in the 5 years to 2002, birth defects have risen by 50%, with 1 in 16 babies now being born having some type of defect, according to the Birth Defects Foundation. Medical advances have also been delayed for many years due to reliance upon animal experiments, such as the introduction of the antibiotic penicillin, which was initially deemed unsafe due to the results of tests on guinea pigs to which it is hazardous. It was by good luck that in the initial toxicity tests we used mice, because if we had used guinea pigs, we would have concluded that penicillin is toxic. Sir Howard Florey. Meanwhile, misleading animal experiments have often been hazardous to human health in other ways. One example being the knowledge of the dangers surrounding smoking, which was delayed because of misleading results of tests on animals. We are told by those who defend animal experiments that vaccines have been responsible for the eradication of infectious diseases, and thus we owe an enormous debt to the role of animals in their development. In reality, vaccines were not responsible for the decline in infectious diseases, which was accomplished largely due to improved social factors, housing, sanitation and nutrition. As can be seen in the following graphs, the diseases were well into decline, and in some cases almost off the graph, before the introduction of the vaccines. The suggestion on the part of the vivisectors that vaccines derived from experiments on animals have been the cause of the decline of infectious diseases is simply not true. Furthermore, there is evidence to suggest that vaccination might well be responsible for a worldwide epidemic of immune and autoimmune disease conditions, encephalitis, autism, asthma, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, ME, diabetes, meningitis, cot death, learning and behavioral problems, social violence, and criminality. Concerned parents are advised to learn more about this subject before deciding whether to have their children vaccinated. And there are numerous good websites and books on this subject, with Vaccines, Are They Really Safe and Effective? By Neil Z. Miller being particularly recommended.
When it comes to animal experimentation and diabetes research, the key thing to remember is the golden rule of vivisection, that no results from animal experiments can ever be reliably transferred to human beings. There are too many unpredictable physiological differences. Now, when Banting and Best did their horrendously cruel dog experiments in the early 1920s, they succeeded in producing a form of insulin that was actually harmful to the first human patient who tried it, a 14-year-old boy called Leonard Thompson. That injury to that patient had not been predicted by the animal experiments. In fact, the basic foundational knowledge regarding diabetes was established through the study of human beings, not animals. Animal experimentation can never give reliable, dependable results for application to human health research. It could